The Omnic Weekly.
Welcome everybody, it is Sunday, February 25th, and this is episode 170 of the Omnic Weekly. I am D, and this week I am joined by a big surprise, Frozen.
Hi.
How you doing, Frozen?
I'm okay. Maybe starting to feel a bit under the weather, but I mean it's still the time of the year to get sick, so
Yeah, apparently there's quite a few people that have been feeling but the better times are ahead. Look at that. If you're watching the video podcast, you can actually see outside of my window that there's still sunlight out. Well, sunlight. There's still light out while we're recording a podcast. Usually it starts to kind of get a little darker around the time that we start recording. So that means summer's coming, which
it is.
you also hate, but that's fine. You'll get it for it.
As long as it's not too hot, it's bearable.
And to be honest, you can get sick in the summer too. So
Yeah.
But you had a trip last week. How was your trip?
It was fun. It was relaxing. Was visiting a friend in the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands, the neighboring
Yes.
country.
In the
There's
country
weird
of
people.
cheese and chocolate.
And
it was
tulips.
it was quite interesting to see so much cheese. I've never seen so much cheese in my life.
I love how your friend. I said something about cheese. I don't know. Oh yeah, I said something in our crew channels about you being in the country of cheese, and I got a DM from your friend, from the friend, like our friend, whatever. I know who she's talking about. Hey, well, who are you calling out my country for cheese? Like, can you blame me? You guys are known for cheese, tulips, and a lot of noise.
True. Yep. You had a trip too.
I did, yeah. I went to the other side of the pond, but not the big pond, the small pond. I went to London for a few days. That was nice. It was nice. We visited a lot of museums. There's a video coming on Damesy's TV somewhere in the next few weeks. I was actually going to release a video about it this week, but the Dune movie is coming out this week, and Dune is one of my favorite kind of IPs ever. Like ever since I was a kid, I read those books. And the second movie is coming out, and I'm going to, because here in Europe we're actually a few days ahead of everywhere else in the world. For some reason we get them like a few days earlier, because back in the day when I was a kid, the movies were released like weeks or months after they're released in the States. I remember us acquiring in illegal ways movies to just watch them a little earlier, and after that we watched them in the movies in the theaters again, just to kind of have the big screen experience. And now we are actually ahead because we've released our movies on Wednesdays, and in other regions of the world they wait till Fridays to do so. So we have like a head start. I'm going to use that to make a video about that. I want to talk about Dune.
Nice.
I've
I
done
mean,
that about
it's
the
a
first
cool
movie.
IP. It's a cool IP, so
I know this is an Overwatch podcast, so bear with us for a second here, but like those books were so like the Lord of the Rings franchise is and I think for the newer generations, Harry Potter has this ring to them for I don't know, nostalgia. A lot of people read those, and I read them too. Like I was 12 when I read Lord of the Rings, and I've cherished that IP and those books for ever since. But Dune hit differently because it has a very unique story. It has these very dark imageries that Frank Herbert has kind of created about reading the book. And there were some interesting series and movies made, but this one, Denis Villeneuve, is a rendition. Jesus Christ, man, it's so good. Like the first movie was good, and from what I've been reading, the second movie is even better, which I actually expected to be the case, because the story they're going to tell in the second part of the movie, I'm not going to spoil anything, but we're getting like Avengers level kind of goosebump moments, you know?
nice.
It's going to be what was it? Infinity Wars levels of goosebumps.
Damn, that's high stakes.
Yeah, but definitely like that story. Just reading the books when I was a kid gave me goosebumps at those moments where I love the games too. Like that IP, that series of books has always been close to my heart. So
I mean, I've read like Lord of the Rings too, and like Harry Potter was also like I loved reading. I think like I spent half of my like teen years just reading books every night. And so like, but I have like a few IPs that are less known, but I just fell in love with so much. Like time traveling stories like Stravaganza. I don't know who knows that book series. It's very vast. There are a lot of books to it, but it's so good, and I wish more people would know about it.
Yeah, yeah. Same for me actually. It's because of my mom. My mom has literally a library of fantasy and science fiction novels. Like she buys all of them, and if you
Mm.
she lives alone in the house that I grew up in, and my parents are divorced, so she has that whole house for her and her two cats. Well, two and a half because the neighbor cat always tends to creep in. But and all of the hallways, the rooms, they're filled with books, and
Mm.
she still is reading every single day, and she is the one that introduced me to Dune in the first place and Lord of the Rings,
Mm.
but also to the Wheel of Time and series like that. Umber, the one that I was talking about a few
Oh,
weeks ago.
Narnia also. My
Yeah.
mom used to read that to me before going to sleep, like
Yeah.
when I was a kid.
I
Like things
never
like that.
read Narnia myself. Like
Oh, worth
N-
it.
Narnia and Harry Potter always felt a little too. This is going to sound weird, a little too young for me, too juvenile. Like the stories were a little
Mm.
too. I really like. If you read these other series are like the Wheel of
Mm.
Time is kind of insane. If you, I don't know if you know that YouTuber. Yeah, of course you do. We've talked about her. Well, it's a couple. Nerdforge,
Yeah.
the Danish or Norwegian. I think they're Norwegian, right?
Mm.
Couple. They actually stacked all of the Wheel of Time books on top of each other, made it into one huge
Damn.
book, and that book is like. I'm pointing it out on the video if you want to see it.
Mm.
It's like I'm going to say like 60 centimeters or something, 70. I don't know, something like
Mm.
that. But anyways, this is an Overwatch podcast. Sorry for that.
Yeah, another books podcast.
To be honest, there is not that much to talk about when it comes to Overwatch right now. Not nothing. There definitely is some stuff to talk about. We already gave our first impressions of season 9 last week.
Mm.
And to be honest, I have not been able to play much because I was traveling last week. But somewhere, I think on Thursday, was it Wednesday or Thursday? I don't remember. Well, this week, somewhere in the middle of this week, they did a hotfix in which they addressed some of the most, how do you say that, urgent issues with the balancing. And there's
Mm.
going to be another one with the mid-season balancing patch. They're going to address some more issues. Now, I don't know. I feel overall, I'm going to be very blunt and honest here. I did 2 polls. I did a poll last week asking how everybody felt about the PvP changes, which surprised the hell out of me. We talked about that last week, but close to about 70 to 80% was like, okay, this needs some changes, but it is good. At least it's like there was 30% that loved it the way it was. And this week I did the same thing for competitive. And the results were kind of similar in the sense that, we got to that same amount. Like there was only 16% that was not happy and I wanted to see the competitive changes reverted. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And actually, like, I think that poll got like 5,000 votes. So that means that a lot of people were kind of keen to answer that question. And about 50% was like, okay, it needs some work. And 35% was like, I love it the way it is. I'm going to be very blunt here, and I love y'all, but the people that voted like it needs some work, usually those people are very quick to kind of put in the comments why they voted that way.
Mm.
And now it was just, I just saw a lot of people in my comments going, yeah, it's cool, it just needs a bit of work. But they're not kind of, usually they are in detail going like, they need to do this, and that. And now they were like, yeah, I feel I'm going to be going out on a limb here because I think a lot of people are getting kind of startled by the whole new placements, what the reset and whatnot. And that kind of made them feel like, oh, wait, this is difficult. I don't like this. And then as they progressed, they kind of liked it more. And along the way, they started liking it. And they kind of, you just have that remnant of a bad feeling in there, but they can't pinpoint what they want to see changed exactly.
It's kind of like just off vibes in that regard, probably. Like they can't just, I don't know, it feels weird, but it's like probably just because they're not used to it yet that well.
Yeah.
That's why it feels off, just because it's so drastically different. It's so vastly different from what we had before. And I mean, especially for people who started playing in Overwatch 2, they don't know anything about like previous things or how things feel, and they're very used to the system they had. So like shaking that up to the core, basically, it just means that people are gonna take a bit longer to get used to that.
Yeah, there's some friction. That's what I would call it.
Mm.
But I do think there are still some issues with the system. I do think it's not perfect just yet. I've seen some people kind of not being able to see modifiers. There are still some technical issues. There are also some issues with people grouping up or not being grouped up. The experience kind of differs and whatnot. On the higher levels, it's also kind of been very inconsistent. Well, not very inconsistent. There have been a few inconsistencies that I've seen. Just all these really spotty remarks, very specific. Nothing kind of that is showing a pattern. Nothing that is showing anything that that I feel like, okay, they need to address this right now. So overall, I think competitive is doing good.
Oh, definitely. It's just that, I mean, that's the nitty gritty that they kind of talked about. That, like, of course, when you change something so drastically, you can only do it step by step. So, like, of course, there's gonna be things that don't work, I feel like. But I think they did, like, kind of a good job for it to be that extent of there's nothing really to pinpoint of what feels wrong or off or something, because it's like that means it's details. That means it's details that can be probably be polished away after some time, but it's
Yeah.
nothing too major.
Impacting a very small group. I think that is the case right now. I think you're spot on. And I think if you look at the PvP balancing changes, that shows a really different story. People were very specific on what they wanted to see change. They wanted to see Hanzo change. They wanted to see Widow change. They wanted to see Zenyatta change. And those things have been addressed in that first patch. And the reactions on that have also been rather positive. I don't know. This feels very uncomfortable for me. I'm so used on having to push back to stay in the middle of the road. You know, I often get called out sometimes even, but I often get labeled as that guy that is positive about Overwatch. And I've said this many times before. I'm not positive. I'm neutral. I'm an old fuck, an old Gen Xer that doesn't believe in polarizing and that tries to get as a balanced an opinion as possible and to stay in the middle of the road. And usually that requires me to push back very hard on some topics because people are really kind of trying to roll over you and trying to get you, well, kind of tumbling down their mountain slope of, well, toxic shit basically. And I'm like, no. Let me just look at it without all the baggage, without all the frustration, and just look at what they did exactly. And right now, I feel like everybody's doing that. I've never felt this proud about the Overwatch community as I did in the last few days. I've seen people kind of embracing the changes, kind of going like, this is interesting, but they need to tune this and this and this, very specific, communicating. Of course, there's always douchebags that blame everybody and everything else for their loss and whatnot. But overall, I don't know.
I mean, that's what you have been preaching for such a long time, to like that people have to get more constructive, that they have to point out specific things so they can be addressed. And I think like nowadays, especially with the internet culture we're just not used to people actually doing that.
Yeah.
So you're probably a bit weirded out that
Definitely.
that happens now. But I mean, that just shows how things just actually start changing, which is beautiful. And that people can actually be constructive and can actually, like, why weren't you this before? I mean, it works now. We can see that.
Yeah, I can also understand why some people had a really difficult time to let go of the past and kind of kept hitting that same button. And some people still do. Like, I still get comments about, yeah, but why don't they put all this time into PvE and whatnot? And I never react to that because I feel like those people are totally justified in their opinion and they can be frustrated about that. But you cannot extrapolate that to other features within the game. You can be frustrated that PvE was cancelled or kind of removed or brought back. I still think currently I don't expect to see a lot more PvE in the next few years. But that doesn't mean that you should not take in all the other features, all the other stuff they do, and look at it and see if it's interesting. If you want to play the game, of course. I mean, at some point, some people just need to let go. But anyways, the balancing patch definitely made a difference. Like, I've been playing the game now, or this patch now for, well, we all have been playing this for 2 weeks. I actually have a video coming out later today that I'll be pushing live right after we recorded the podcast that looks back at, is this a good time to come back to Overwatch and whatnot for those people that left. But I think overall, I have a really good feeling about the season that hasn't changed anything from last week. So the thing you start automatically doing at that point when you feel like, okay, this is kind of covered, this is something they kind of seem to be handling right now, is to kind of start looking forward to what could be the next thing that they're going to be working on. And Eric Aller did the director's take this week that actually kind of, lifts, how do you call that? Gives a bit of a teaser of things that are to come. Let me just let me start out first with something that is kind of interesting too, that he shared. That is that competitive is now the most played game mode, the most popular game mode in Overwatch. I always figured that was the case, but it turns out it was quick play actually. Quick play was at, if I'm not mistaken, 40%. And quick play has now dropped back to 32.
I mean, coming from a dedicated quick play player who has over like 600, almost 700 hours in quick play and barely any in comp, I really enjoyed myself playing a lot of comp since the changes and since Season 9 launched. Like,
I see you guys in comp, yeah. You've been diving in.
I don't think I've played this much comp. Like, I climbed back up to where I left off by now, which wasn't even that hard. It was kind of fun to see, like, what could I do wrong? What was an uphill battle, downhill battle? Like, this kind of is satisfying to see it go down and up. But yeah, I don't know. It's the transparency helps for me at least.
Yeah.
The less ambiguity really helps for me to actually be motivated to. I want to play comp now. I didn't have that before. Like when people asked me, I was going to tag along, but by now I actually have. So I think I'm gonna play comp now, which I didn't have.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in your, because that is what they shared, is that that competitive went up from 35% to 45%, which is huge. That is almost half of the time spent in game is now spent in competitive. That is 10% up. 10%, yeah, well, 10%. But if you kind of look at the change it caused, it's actually 25% up or something like that. Math, it sucks.
That's crazy though.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. That shows that they definitely did something right, that people are sticking with it. I mean, we're just a few weeks in. We'll see how this kind of evolves. But that was an interesting change to see. And what he also added is that while quick play is now at 32%, the actual time that quick play was played overall did not drop, because it turns out that we're just kind of playing more Overwatch and then specifically competitive right now than anything else. So I think overall, they can be happy with the results, both on the whole PvP changes. I think a lot of people are kind of feeling it, are kind of ready to see this evolve and see this turn into the new reality for Overwatch. And second is the whole competitive. They set out in a new direction that people seem to enjoy. So what is going to be the next thing? Well, it turns out that they're going to do some changes. Now, I mentioned in the posts and in my TikToks that this is going to be happening in quick play. And the blog post wasn't 100% clear on that. I don't think these changes are coming to competitive, but they have, looked at the results of that quicker play experiment they did, the quick play hacked back in Season 8 that everybody hated so much, or a lot of people kind of hated because it sped up some things a little too hard. And I made a whole video about it where I kind of was like, okay, these are the things I want to kind of keep from that experiment. And one of them is one that they're actually going to be doing. When wasn't clear either. The way that blog was set up, I felt that there were so many caveats. Like, I think it's going to be Season 10, but there's no way for me to confirm, because they started talking about something about Season 10. They followed up, but it wasn't clear if that was also going to happen in Season 10. And at the end, they said, sorry, I'm going to finish my sentence. At the end, they said like we're going to do this in quick play. We're looking into maybe doing it in competitive, but that wasn't clear if it's only going to be the last part. They talked about all the rest. Sorry, what were you going to say, Frozen?
It's super interesting. Like, that was the night I came back from vacation, and like I just like breezed through everything. I just looked at everything. Like after I was like, "Huh, this is interesting," because it's like I don't know the amount of more communication that is actually in that post, in that blog post, in comparison to like a while ago, but also more ambiguity too, which is really funny to me. Like, how can you be more transparent but also more ambiguous in the process?
They're still learning. They're still learning. I think it is. You know what the problem always is, and this is the UX designer in me speaking, but people often, and that is a huge problem for anybody in a creative technical trade, like if you are a developer, if you are a designer, is that you always think from your own standpoint. Like you always kind of start building a solution, or you're always going to start building an explanation from your own standpoint, because that is what you know best. The thing is, all that information for you is easy. It's like very clear, and you know exactly how it is going to kind of unfold. What all the things that you need. Like I've been thinking about a lot of new content I want to make. I'm going to make a video on DMCs that kind of explains, but this is maybe a bit of a premiere, but I'm not convinced anymore that the Omnic Post is where I'm going to make a living. I think the Omnic Post is going to continue, but the Omnic Post and all the facets of the Omnic Post is not what is going to make me a living by the time I need to make a living. I'm looking into doing other types of content to kind of to have that happen. I think I need to kind of disassociate myself from other parties and stop kind of living by the rhythm of others and do my own thing. That is kind of the whole gist of it. But I'll check out that video on DMZs when it comes out in a few weeks. And one of the things I've been looking at is I used to be a college professor and explaining stuff, and Hilda, my girlfriend, is always like, well, you can talk about this and this, and I always feel like, yeah, but everybody knows that, but that's just it. Not everybody knows that, and I know not everybody knows that. I've been all these years of teaching and whatnot learned me that your own standpoint is always very informed and always very clear. You need to actually think, this person knows jack shit about what I'm going to be talking about. How do I explain this? And then you need to start writing around that. That's the way I explain to my students. I didn't make any assumptions of their knowledge levels. I just kind of assumed they were dumb as fuck, and then started explaining stuff. And that's why they loved my classes, because I literally kind of laid it out from the start. They didn't have that feeling like, wait, what? Like, it just was very clear on how that needed to happen and that needed to evolve.
I mean, that's super interesting because I know we all had to do those exercises in school where we had to like write how to make a recipe of some kind in the most detail possible. So anyone who had no idea what we were talking about could actually achieve that. That was like a school exercise. I think that's kind of like almost a universal experience. I think in America is like how to make a PB&J. And it's super interesting because basically, if you have to explain something, just try to explain like you would to a toddler. Like someone who just has maybe never even heard of that. Just try to do that. Because I have sometimes when they release something, I have so many questions.
Yeah, exactly. That is something they need to work on, is to get that tone right, to understand that not everybody that is reading their content knows what I know, what you know, what they know. Like, by the way, people, for the hosts that do not know, PB&J is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I just had to do it because we're just saying it. No, I still make the same mistake myself too. I try to kind of incorporate it in my videos to make sure that people that watch my videos for the first time, that have not seen all the other videos, I either reference the other videos and go watch those, and then you'll be up to date, or I explain it over again. And for some people, they might have heard it. Like, we do the same thing on the podcast. I don't make any assumptions on how many episodes you have heard of this podcast. And that is why sometimes certain topics will come back, because, you know, not everybody listens to this podcast like rigorously, like every single week.
I mean, sometimes people have listened to like 50 episodes. Sometimes it's the first, and that's completely fine. So we're gonna explain everything in detail.
Exactly. So my apologies for that. But anyways, yeah, that blog post was kind of confusing. But anyways, let me run over all the changes that they're going to do, because that was where we started out. And people that don't know are now like, tell us what those changes are, you. But so the first thing they're going to do and push, they're going to speed up the push bot. The second thing they're going to do and push is that they're going to reduce the match lengths from 10 to 8 minutes. And that is the one thing that they said in quick play only for now. I don't know. Are they going to speed up the push bot in quick play and competitive? I have no idea. But they're only going to speed him up when he's pushing the barrier. So not when you're running back. And this is something new. This is something they did not test, that they did not do in the quicker play, but they're going to give everybody that comes out of spawn on flashpoint maps a speed boost. So you're going to come out of spawn running a little faster than you usually do to get back to the point faster. That is an interesting change. I do worry kind of a little bit about how people are going to kind of, new people that have no idea where we're coming from, they're going to kind of go, well, why am I suddenly running faster? Why is there Lucia around? Notice that, what the hell? But anyways.
Well, flashpoint maps, and honestly with that change, flashpoint maps are so big. So sometimes it can feel like when your whole team is still fighting on the point and you just have to run all the way over there and then they're all dead and either you go back and then you die or something else. I feel like that's just gonna improve like quality of life kind of changes.
Definitely. I think it's going to be a good change. But the thing is, like with Overwatch, I'm kind of hoping that we never go to the point where it becomes too difficult to explain what is happening. Because
I mean,
go ahead.
sorry. I mean, the thing is with Overwatch, of course, like it was simple at the start, and it's still like simpler than other games, like way simpler than other games. But with features that get added, with game modes, with new map types, it's gonna be inevitable that it gets more complicated. For example, with like, I mean, the flashpoint maps that we have, they're the biggest maps yet. We didn't have that big maps before. I mean, they're huge. So, I mean, this is just showing that they're kind of adjusting to the size that they didn't have. So they were like, hey, this is cool, not really working. So we're gonna add something else to it to make it work. But that is just gonna make it a bit more complicated.
Do you think that maybe at some point, like the next Flashpoint maps, that they'll be smaller? That this shows that they're actually kind of convinced now that the maps are too big?
I don't know, but that would be an interesting prediction to maybe wait and see. Because, I mean, this is like all of game development is kind of trial and error in general. And to try something new like this, like quite drastically, it's just gonna give you the data and say, then you're gonna see, does that work? Does that not work? Do we have to adjust something? So if they have to have a speed boost at the beginning of a spawn so people can actually get to the point, it might indicate that we'll maybe get a bit of like smaller maps.
Yeah. But then you have the speed boost, of course, that they could just keep it for the old maps and not add it for the new maps. But anyways, that is going to happen. What I wanted to say before is like one of the pieces of feedback that has been coming back a lot on the PvP changes is that you don't have a visible kind of indication that someone is under the effect of the DPS passive. So especially for supports, you might be pumping a lot of health into someone that is actually under the debuff, which of course you need to do because you need to keep them up, but that you at least have an idea of what is happening here. Why is this my healing? You can make an assumption that he's probably being shot at. Well, you can see his health bar go up and down, so he's clearly getting shot at. But it's the communication of having that is something that they're going to look at. They're going to look at the ways that they can communicate that someone is under the DPS passive. That's exactly what I mean. Like at some point, there's so many indicators and stuff they need to communicate about the state of the game. And the problem is, like in World of Warcraft, they always had these little icons. Well, your parents used to play World of Warcraft, but if you had a target, you selected the target, you would see next to their portrait, you would see a shit ton of little indicators that said like they're having this debuff on that this is happening. This is the state that they're in. Also for your friendly players, you can't do that in Overwatch. So you need to do all these in-world indicators. So I don't know. Like they've already talked about the fact that the game is getting too cluttered, and I think stuff like this is not going to help out. But we'll see. I think it's an interesting change. I look forward to seeing that added. Another one they're going to do is a speed boost during setup for the defenders on hybrid and escort maps. So if you're on the defending end and you want to get set up a little quicker, because you have to run all the way to that first point, of course, that is going to give you a speed boost. So you won't have to do the whole long walk. Well, you'll have to do the walk, but you'll do it a little quicker than you usually do right now. I think that is a good change. I often, to be honest, like lately, I've had a lot of instances on hybrid and on escort where your tank will be or someone will be still in spawn by the time the game starts and they need to run all the way back. That will help to avoid that. But anyways,
God, we had that in comp yesterday.
yeah, that is not good. That is usually, sometimes it's because like in quick play it can be because of a backfill, but in comp it's definitely someone's mother just walking in and kind of disturbing them or something, or they were tabbed, they were playing something, doing something else. But those changes are coming. No idea when that is going to happen exactly. And another thing they confirmed yet again is that the group limits, so the fact that you can in competitive you can't, how do you say that? Like now currently in competitive, people that are in bronze and in diamond cannot group up. That is
you have a
impossible.
certain range
Yeah.
of like I don't know
what you're doing. Are you having like one of those sour candies? Is that what you're doing?
No, I can't find the word.
The levels, the tiers.
Exactly. Like you have a certain range of tiers you can group up with still. I mean, which kind of involves that as a bronze you don't have to go against like a diamond or master player. But I mean, they're gonna include that if you're playing in a wider range team, for example, like if you're silver or gold playing with a very high tier player, that you're gonna get paired up with equal, like kind of equally mixed teams.
They're going to mirror your team basically.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna do that yet without having queue times go into the infinite. I mean, that's always gonna depend on how many people are actually gonna use that feature.
Yeah, they kind of explained it a little bit at BlizzCon. Remember, they kind of addressed that that issue that it kind of it's basically like a huge set of numbers that keep running that will try and match you as good as possible, but there's always going to be a certain risk involved. Like if you're playing later in the day, the chances of you being matched with an also white team that might be slightly better than you are going to be hired. Like they have a lot of parameters to play with, and some will be more flexible than others, depending on how the impact on the queue times. I don't think they want anybody to wait for half an hour. Well, some Grandmaster players have to wait half an hour for a match, but overall, I don't think they want to kind of have that effect overall. But to be honest, on the other hand, also like it's your choice, and if you have a really wide group, you just know that is going to be a thing. You know that is going to be impacting you, and it's not going to impact the people that are in a more narrow group. It's just going to. It's a choice you make at that point, so you know the consequences, and you can't expect everything. You can't expect to both have a wide group and to have optimal queue times. That makes sense. That there's not going to be as many wide groups out there that they can pitch you against, and you'll probably run into a lot of the same people once you get in a group like that. But you know,
it's
that's the way it
definitely
goes.
gonna be fun for people who can now play with their friends, even though there may be in different tiers.
Exactly.
That's definitely a plus, because it's just a fun game for friends to play with team-based stuff. So
yeah, definitely. That's the thing they want to do. Of course, they want to allow people that are, or even couples that are very different. I mean, I don't want to know how many arguments are out there in the world because of not being able to group up in competitive. Like, can you be a little less sweaty so we can play together? Well, maybe you should play a little better so we can play together.
I mean, I had the same thing when I tried to play with LP, where we couldn't group up together as we wanted to. Like, I had to play tank because I couldn't play another role. That was sad.
Yeah, yeah, we've had that. We have that in our groups when we play on stream too. Like some some members of my community are in Grandmaster while others are in Silver or Gold. And then, it kind of raised some issues where we had to kind of either force people to play a certain role or force people to leave the team.
Mm.
So that is going to be less of an issue. But on the other hand, I mean, we also try to, I mean, most of us are kind of around that platinum range, so that is good. And then the final thing they kind of shared with us in that director's take is that their approach to quick play hacked. So that whole idea of doing these experiments in quick play is going to shift a little bit over the next few seasons. And I'm not 100% certain if that was necessary, but let me lay out the changes that they have in mind. So the one thing that they got a lot of feedback on is that it was very disruptive to have the whole quick play be taken over by quicker play for a whole weekend. That people had only time in the weekend to play and they didn't enjoy the experience. So for them, that weekend was lost. So what they're going to do now is, if this is a very disruptive change that they want to test, they're going to put it in a separate card next to quick play. But the thing is, and this is my opinion, in that same blog post, Aaron mentioned that people tend not to use any card that they had. Experimental card was not used. It was used by 18% of the community, and the bigger part of them left after trying it for 1 or 2 games. So that, in best case, left you with 3 to 6% of the population that kind of took a little more effort and tried it a little harder than all the rest. And that's it. So that is a lot less data, because when they did it in quick play, well, everybody had to play it. At that point, they got so much data, they got so much feedback that we have some changes coming to the game that are based off of that, with some based on the data, based on the feedback that we gave a few weeks ago or a few months ago. By putting it in a separate card, I'm kind of worried that we're going to get that same situation again, where people are not going to play it. Now, the only thing is, the exception is if it's not too disruptive, it's not as big a change, they're still going to do it in quick play, the main card. And they're going to do it during a week instead of a weekend and for a shorter time.
They have like 3 instances actually, where he mentioned like the very disruptive ones, the less disruptive ones, and like very minor ones, where they actually said that the less disruptive ones get a shorter amount of time, but the like minor ones get the same amount of time as the quick play hacked had. So that was quite interesting to like categorize that into these 3 instances. I mean, with the experimental card, I feel like the placement, where it was placed, was also kind of the issue, because it was there all the time and was always like in the arcade, and like not the majority of players play a lot in the arcade. Like a few still, sure.
Yeah, no, but I think they advertised it enough. I just think that I can understand that people, if they come in and they want to play Overwatch, they come for the main experience. You come for the main dish. You kind of, I can completely understand. That is very human behavior. Do not jump into that extra thing that is not like the one you know, and that is not giving you the experience you want, because, well, not enough people are playing it, so the queues are longer. You don't have, there's like, it feels like a fake experience, so to speak. It's not the game that you want to play. It is like this thing on the side, and it just psychologically, people are just like, yeah, I'll try it. And even if it's fun, even if they have a shit ton of fun, they'll still go to the main game, because that is where they feel they make the progress. That is where everybody is. That is where they're going to get the best matchmaking, where they're going to get the shortest queue times, all that stuff. And for good reason, because only like 18% tried it. And I don't know. I feel like if they had just moved the whole quick play hacked to, let's say, the middle of the week instead of a weekend, for one day, 24 hours, like, bam, Wednesday, 24 hours, we're going to have quick play hacked. They would have a lot of data, way more than they'll have if they put it in a separate card. And the people that are really annoyed with it, come on, it's one day and in a season that might result in some improvements to the game. You can't ask for one thing but don't want to put in the sacrifices to get it. I mean, we need to also contribute in building this game better by giving our feedback, but also by trying some stuff out. We can't be those people that say that we want to try these new things, that we want to try them before they release it and whatnot, and then the moment they put something out, to completely ignore it. That is on us. Then if they force it down our throat, we need to accept that, okay, we need to go through this. We need to test this. Otherwise, it's going to just be you get a better game by having your community involved, but we need to accept that we need to sometimes put in the work a little bit. That's my opinion, at least. I don't mind, like, even if it's something I really don't like, even if they replace every single hero with Widow, if it's for 24 hours on a Wednesday, one day in this whole season, I would be, all right, let's do this. Let's just play Widow for 24 hours. And I would be glad that it's over, but I don't mind putting in that time if it actually results in Widow being removed from the game. I'm going to get an angry call after this.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's where some of the entitlement that the community still has kind of gets involved, where they want new stuff, but they don't want stuff to change in the process, which just doesn't work.
It is a very
And-
it's a very toxic relationship.
And you can't cater to that too. I mean, they can try this now, but if it doesn't work, they're gonna have to go back to, hey, we're gonna need to force you to play this for like 1 or 1.5 days. And I mean, I wouldn't mind that either. And I think over time people would just get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But like pulling that through, or like actually implementing that, I don't know why they didn't do that, but I mean, they must have had their reasons, I guess. It's still weird to me.
Yeah, I think just too many complaints. A lot of people kind of stamping their feet, you know, like a toddler that is not getting Snickers in the grocery shop, like that kind of behavior. Yeah, it is what it is. We'll see how that kind of. I've said this before. I was happy that they did stuff like that they want to take a risk. And they proved it again that they're kind of not afraid to take a risk with the game. If they think it's going to better the experience, they are ready to push through the bullshit and kind of, you know, I think at some point there's so much backlash and so much hate coming their way. I'm not going to say they're immune for it, not at all, but I'm going to say, like, you know, while we're in a shitstorm, we can take that little extra and get good results out of it and make it into a better game. Like having that mindset of like, we're in the shithouse already. Let's just stay in the shithouse a little longer, but come out with a game that they're really going to enjoy. And I think that is a brave decision to make. But we'll see. As always, I'm kind of curious if we're going to go back, or how many, or what the ratio is going to be of what they put in a separate card and whatnot. But there's definitely going to be more quick play hacks coming in the future, which I'm very keen on testing. I mean, I've said this before, and we're getting to a point where I personally love change, but it has been proven by now that the changes that they want to do kind of result into a better experience. How on top of things they are when it comes to, okay, we tried all of this, and what they remain with is something that I actually also mentioned in my video. This is something I want to keep. The push bot is something, the faster payload is not happening, but the faster push bot is in there. And they added something extra. They took all the feedback that we gave, they looked at it, and they were like, I think you guys don't want this, you want this. And they added it, like the little speed boost out of a spawn. Like, all right, yeah. No, that actually makes sense. Why didn't we think of that? Well, some people probably did.
I mean, sometimes you don't know what you want or what you need until you have it.
Or they take it away.
Yeah, no, but like sometimes you don't know, like you know something's not right, and you know something's bothering you, but you can't quite place it. So like changes or like trials like that actually help you determine like where you want to go or where you need to go.
Yeah. And on top of that, they make the game feel fresh. Like the first few days after that Season 9 launch, I really felt like I was playing another Overwatch. Now it's gotten back to the level where I'm used to it. I'm going to be honest, it feels it feels good. It feels better, but I don't feel like, I don't know, the impact of the projectile sizes and whatnot. Yeah, it probably was doing its job. It's probably working. But I'm not necessarily dying more, dying easier, not having those situations. By the way, someone put a comment on the video, and really, last week we said something about a projectile getting stuck on the environment, and that person said like, no, the growth in projectile size did not grow the chances of getting stuck on the environment, because they don't necessarily. I need to confirm that. If you're listening, I'm not kind of calling you a liar. I'm not calling you out or anything. I thought it was a very interesting comment, because I definitely had situations where I felt like my projectile that I probably would have hit before didn't, because I saw it hit the wall while it was still kind of. Because the projectile hitbox is bigger and kind of gets stuck on. I don't know. That is what my experience was, but I'm going to dig deeper into that. I'm very curious to see how that actually works, if that is actually the case, and how that actually. Thank you for putting that comment. That was an interesting one to read. But yeah, so that is coming. I think in season 10 we're going to get a new quick play hacked, and at season 9 I think we're going to get a new quick play hacked. But
Probably.
Yeah, that those changes to the speed, probably season 10. The group up limits are going to be removed in season 10. So there's already some stuff coming. We also know that Adventure is on the way. Last week, some content creators, I was not included in that. They only invited a limited set of content creators this time around to the campus in Irvine to, look at the future of Overwatch, I guess. And that is going to be both the new 2 heroes that are upcoming. Maybe they already got a look at the 3rd hero, that one that they teased. The new tank hero, I don't know. They probably got a look at some of the upcoming collabs and whatnot, but I can guarantee you that they are not allowed to talk about any of it. So I don't think we're going to hear anything about it anytime soon. What we will be able to do ourselves, though, in a few weeks, and I think that is going to be happening in, my guess would be in 3 weeks, is that we're going to get a test weekend for Venture.
I hope so, because that's like still one of the most anticipated heroes I've seen in quite a while. Like, I don't know, with Morga, he was very anticipated, but Morga like things died down quickly after that. But
understandable, because Morga has been like a figure in the community, in the lore, in this game for such a long time.
But like non-lore wise, Venture is so anticipated. I've seen so much art for them, so much like countdowns of like these and these days until Venture is in the game and stuff like that. And I think it's because of the unique kit that they're gonna have.
Yeah.
Because of like it's gonna be things that aren't there before. I'm gonna be curious on under how many walls you can dig under with Venture, like how many bug fixes there, like in general, like how many bug fixes they're gonna have to make.
How many weird situations we're getting. Actually, I pointed it out back at BlizzCon. I had this interview with Alec Dawson and the rest of the hero design team. So it was Kenny, the hero producer, someone from Q&A. Can't think of his name now. I'm terribly sorry. One of the hero artists. And one of the questions I asked was, do you anticipate a lot of issues with the burring? They kind of looked at me like I was I'm not going to say like I was a dumbass or something, but they were like, yeah, but they don't really go underground. It's just, like the physical, the model for the hero doesn't really go underground. I'm like, yeah, but Kiriko doesn't really fly from one to the other either, and we've seen so many issues, but I guess we'll just see. Then they started telling me the whole process of their testing. I was like, yeah, but I get it. I'm not saying you're not taking. I'm just kind of curious how that is going to work out. I'm sorry.
The same process for testing probably apply to Kiriko and Doomfist.
Yeah.
And I mean, have you seen the log and how many bug fixes and changes they had to do to Doomfist so he would work, and he's still broken?
He's still getting stuck everywhere.
Yeah, so I'm just very curious how that's gonna pan out. It's gonna be really fun, and I'm gonna look forward to a lot of those like posts about just being stuck with Venture somewhere.
Yeah, Exactly, me too. But they have a really interesting kit. I'm very curious how that. I mean, I've not seen a lot of heroes doing stuff like that, the burrowing stuff, and
True.
yeah, it's not
I
like
mean,
it's not something we've seen a lot.
true. I mean, especially I'm gonna be curious how their weapon is gonna look like. Like, I mean, if it's gonna be just like if they're gonna throw rocks at you, like Sigma style, or if it's
Well,
gonna be like just shooting.
we saw
Because
a preview of their weapon in
I mean, they
the
still
footage.
said like things like about Venture's kit changed again after
Yeah,
they showed us that. So we actually kind of have like only half of an idea of how it looks like now.
but
So it's just gonna be very interesting.
if I look at the concept art, I do think there's going to be some type of weapon. I don't think they're necessary, but yeah, I'm very kind of curious to see overall also what they can do with the silhouette and the skin and the whatnot. Because I just was pulling up the image of Venture and look at that weapon. Like the weapon on the concept art is like this huge drill that they use. I mean, it would be. I really hope they keep that. That is something they're going to keep in.
I mean, imagine that being like a gold weapon. I mean, a
Yeah,
big
exactly.
shiny drill, or like a jade weapon too, if people like green.
Oh, Jade. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. Aaron Keller kind of talked about the fact that you can't buy golden weapons with the new currency. I had been poking them about that and going like, I think that is going to be a problem. And they were like, yeah, we know. But then they talked out about it, and they were so. Starting in season 10, there should be a way that we can use the new currency to buy golden weapons. How it's going to work exactly is kind of unclear. Now, the most obvious way, I think, would be to allow people to use that currency, like to use legacy currency only to buy old weapons and to use the new currency to buy everything that came before, which I thought was going to be the case anyways. But I'm kind of worried about the people that got to 2,950 of the legacy coins and I have to start over again. I think that might be something that we just have to take. I think that might, I don't think they're going to do like a transfer of currencies, or they're not going to allow you to buy a half with that. I think it's either going to be the new currency or the old currency. So you have to grind again for the...
I mean, I had like 1,900 or something. I was like halfway there, and now I have to start over, which is kind of frustrating. Not gonna lie. I mean, I get it, but it's still kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I was at 2,500, 400 on both my accounts that I play competitively. I'm actually going to start competitive tomorrow on the stream, by the way. So if you're up for it, come join me. But
I got time.
yeah, I'm going to do that tomorrow, and I don't know, maybe on Wednesday I'm going to play something different. Thursday I'm not doing a stream because it's Hilda's birthday.
That's important.
Yeah, it's February 29th. She is a leap year child, so we need to make a big fuss out of it.
Definitely. I mean, it's like once every 4 years you get your birthday.
Yeah, my girlfriend is 9 years old next Thursday. That is weird. Yeah, okay.
If you say it like that, it's very weird.
It is very weird. She keeps telling me, she's like, I'm turning 9. Like, can you stop saying that, especially in public, please? And while I'm holding your hand and kissing you, come on. I'm going to go to jail if you keep saying it that way.
Come on, look at me. Can you stop saying that?
Yeah, but actually, this is kind of funny. They did this thing in Belgium. They have this television program called the Droomfabriek, which is the Dream Factory. And they are actually doing something in Belgium next week for all people that have their birthday on a leap year, that they can go. Like, there's a lot of places here in Belgium that are giving away free food to people that have their birthday on Thursday, on 29th of February. Like, because of that program was like, okay, we want to put spotlight on people that have their, because they only have a birthday every 4 years. Now we need to make it something special. So like there's a shit ton of stuff happening all over Belgium because of that program, that people are getting free food, getting free entrance to places and whatnot. So that is kind of cool.
That's so nice.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I was at 2,400 coins. To be honest, I'm not too bothered about it. I know I'll get the golden weapons I want. I'm not interested in jade weapons at all. The green, like some people tell me, no, I see them in game. They kind of look nice. Yeah, Koba. But no. Okay, Koba, please.
I mean, if you play skins that are green too, that's kind of the only place where they fit.
Yeah. But it's not like they're done ugly. It's just not my color. I just like green. It's just like if I'm a graphic designer and I don't think you'll see a lot of content that I ever made that has a lot of green in it. I mean, some of my thumbnails are, but then it's like I push it really hard to that limey green, you know, that really kind of almost going to yellow. That is where I feel comfortable with green.
I like green. I mean, my this is kind of have a greenish tint to it, so I don't mind green. But I like
everybody that's watching this
dark-
is like, no, lady, that is black.
no, this is actually green. There, no, but I like very like dark or very cold types of green. Not this. I mean, that's what I thought they did when they said like jade weapons or emerald weapons or something like that. And the thing is, like, when you look at them, jade, like the actual stone jade, looks so much different than the color that these weapons are. It's weird.
Yeah, I was actually I was to London last week and we went to all these different museums. And at the British Museum, they have all these collections of jade objects, and it was even like this one jade cube looked really beautiful. But
it's this like coldish grayish green,
that
which is really pretty, but it's not the green we have in game.
No. Like jade has really a lot to do with the way the color gets fractioned throughout the material, and that kind of makes it feel like it's almost like it's made out of jelly. Like it gives this jelly feel to the way the color breaks through it, or the light kind of breaks through that all, and then you get this. I don't know. It's hard to pardon me. It's hard to explain. But yeah, I mean, but that's fine. I don't. There's plenty of gold weapons I still want to get because I play so many heroes. And to be honest, I don't care too much about the golden weapons either. It's not like I have plenty of golden weapons. Sometimes I even forget to equip them. Who cares?
It's a cosmetic thing. If you like it, you'll like it. If you don't, you don't.
Exactly. And maybe we'll see what they do for the next one. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Los Muertos weapons that they're going to do, and that makes me hopeful that I really like the fact that they're not going to give everybody these hard light weapons, but they're like, okay, well, let's try something different for these heroes. These heroes are getting Los Muertos weapons, and these heroes are getting Eldritch weapons, and these heroes, that is kind of cool. That really makes it kind of interesting. Way too expensive, but kind of cool. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm not going to make a video on this because I don't think it's anything to talk about, but there have been some things going out about on 4chan, which is like the least reliable source ever, about what the future of the battle pass could look like and what the pricing could look like. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think there's any kind of truth to anything of that, and it's just like another, like throughout my career, I've seen so many of these 4chan leaks. And I think there has been ever one where it was like, okay, that kind of makes sense, and all the rest is just, but we'll see. But that being said, I am very curious. I had hoped to see that in the director's take last Friday, but last Friday, the director's take they did last Friday was more of a look back at what the results were of PvP and competitive, not as much about looking forward to what else they have in mind. The economy one that they were talking about. So I'm hoping to see that in 2 weeks. So they do a director's take every 2 weeks. So not next Friday, but Friday after that. To finally get some idea on what they're thinking about with the battle pass and the shop. I really hope they kind of are brave enough to look at the shop and go like, yeah, no, we're going to just kind of cut the prices. We're still going to make enough money. Like apparently they made a lot of money with the whole Seraphim event. If they do some good collabs, they're going to make so much money. It's all about getting these, like we said last week, when it's commercial collabs, I don't think we need to pay. But when it comes to these like fandom collabs, I think it could be a nice way for them to make money, but also for the community to get some awesome skins at a decent price. We need to get those price points down.
They have to get it right between, like, if they like set their prices down, I think more people are gonna be inclined to buy them, which is ultimately just gonna make them more money in the process. So like they just have to find that balance, I guess, for themselves, because they don't want to lose out, of course. But
They're not
Yeah.
going to lose out. They're not going to lose
Yeah.
out. I mean, if I look at the community just in general, how many of the skins that I've seen running around, people that have bought the battle pass, there's so much that people invest in this game.
Mm.
And their first and primary concern needs to be the trust between the relationship between the community and themselves.
Mm.
Because not only, like Frozen said, like if you're going to pull down your prices, you're going to sell more items because more people will be inclined. If you tell someone like this skin is $20, or you tell this person this skin is $10, you're going to lose, like, I don't know, 60 to 70% that is not willing to pay $20. $10 is something that people feel like if they see a skin that they really want, they'll go, all right, $10 is not too bad. I'm happy to pay that. $20, they feel cheated. They might still buy it, but they feel cheated.
Especially in some countries where like the prices are just higher due to different currencies or different factors.
Or economy.
Sometimes it's literally between, do I want to buy this in-game cosmetic that's not gonna have a real impact on my real life, or do I want to buy food this week?
Yeah.
Like, because of, like, the prices are just going up everywhere. So I just feel like they have to go with the time. I mean, we are in a kind of a worldwide recession right now.
Yeah, it's not even going with the time. I think it's just like they need to understand that this model, this free-to-play games as a service model, depends on trust between the consumers and the developers. If the consumers feel that they're cheated out of their money and that the prices are unfair, even if they pay for them, even if they buy these items, they will still not trust you, and that will cost you in the long run. If you have a good relationship, like any developer that... Look at Baldur's Gate, look at freaking Larian. Like, people love Larian, people love Baldur's Gate, and Larian is like on top of everybody's list now of a good guy developer, and whatever Larian is going to put out next, people are going to buy it because they trust Larian. If Overwatch would do that, if Blizzard would manage to go back, and they're never going to go back to old Blizzard, but go back into the zone where people trust them and people feel like, okay, this is Blizzard, we can trust them, they're doing good by us. If they can go back to that and kind of just treat people with respect, not only they're doing a lot of stuff for us, let's not forget, like with the changes they've done and trying to make a good game, but also kind of on the economic level, gain our trust again, then there would be an ever-growing community. There would be more and more people coming in. There would be more people putting down money to buy your stuff. So your community would grow, and that the percentage of those people in the community that would spend on the game would grow too. So that means growth. And in my opinion, but that's kind of hard to predict or to, well, I can say whatever I want, but in my opinion, that is going to net you more money than just trying to squeeze every single dime out of the community that you have and kind of leave them feeling abused in the gutter.
I mean, that's what a lot of like those companies that just are so focused on money kind of forget, that a huge part is just reputation. Like, especially in the gaming industry, it's just pure reputation sometimes. If a studio has a good reputation, people are going to be way more inclined to spend money on you. Otherwise, then, for example, I mean, I'm going to give the best example, like EA, for example. People have been complaining about the Sims games and the monetization on those for ages. And like the amount of cracked versions, copies, anything else is like so high because everyone knows EA is just out for the money. They don't care about you. They don't care about anyone else. And it's just so much reputation based on how people feel about you and your games that I wonder why big companies or in general people just haven't picked up on that sooner.
Because the problem is that the people that push for those kind of models and that are in charge to kind of push that whole industry in that direction are only in there for brief times. Those are people that are in a certain position for 4 to 5 years, and they kind of cash out. They try to get as much money out of it. They try to squeeze it for everything that it's worth, and then they move on to another company, and they'll try to squeeze out everything they can do with those. It just like they don't care about the company that they work for. They don't care about the company that they or the customers for the company they work for, they care about their own wallets and about their reputation and making sure that the next job they get, that the amount of money they squeeze out of this company will actually land them the next job that will give them a bigger potential to squeeze even more money out of other people. And that is just the corporate reality. That is capitalism at its best. That is how it works right now. And
Capitalism at the price of sustainability.
yeah, but that is what we need in this industry right now. There are some people that are brave enough to stand up against that system and show their love for the industry, to show their love for the product, to show their love for the art of making games. And that is what the people at Larian did, and that is what some other people are doing. Like I've not been following the Helldivers thing, but I've seen a lot of those same type of comments coming from that angle. And I think it is maybe the start of a switch around in the industry. If Overwatch could come out in the next few months with a model that is fair towards the gamers, towards the players, towards the end users, that would send a huge signal to the rest of the industry. That would actually be, together with everything that had happened at Arrowhead and everything that happened at Larian, and everything that a lot of indie developers are doing every single day, that they have been doing for years now, could actually be the evolution that we want to see in this industry, where the product is being put central again, and that you don't want to know how much money Larian made. They sold, like, what was the last number I saw of the amount of copies they sold worldwide? They made like $2 billion or something on that game by now. No, that would be an
that together with just how they're dealing with everything, because I've seen so many companies trying to, like, for example, like, cut out modding communities, even though modding communities are kind of like what keeps some games alive. I mean, if you look at Skyrim, that game has been kept alive by modding communities for like years and
Fallout,
years and
Skyrim,
years.
yeah, all the Bethesda games are kept like actually kind of the same thing with World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft has always had mods that have been doing features that are now in the game for decades now, like, well, almost 2 decades. So,
and
definitely.
like the difference you always see is, like, because of Larian just supports their modding community, they want to support the mods because they know these mods are like what's gonna make the game better. They know they couldn't push out that much basically free content for them in the amount of time that these modders in the modding community can. So
look at Bethesda. Bethesda, like, if you play any Bethesda game, there is a mod that is going to be out there for Skyrim, for Fallout, that is dealing with a lot of bug fixes. It's like, if you go into modding any Bethesda game, the first thing people will tell you need to get this mod and it fixes shit ton of bugs. And Bethesda knows that these mods exist, but they're not going to put in the money or the effort to try and fix these bugs because someone else did it for them. They're like, people will install this mod. The thing is, what you said, Frozen, is that some people are cracking down on that. And that's just because of the suits, the lawyers, the people that want to that have no freaking clue how this industry works, that come in with their knowledge from somewhere else, from some corporate bullshit in the pharma industry or whatnot, that roll in and that just kind of try to copy paste their bullshit rules into the industry. And that is where it starts to clash, because games are not products that you can sell on the shelf somewhere, or games are a very personal experience. Like, if I play Overwatch, it is a very different experience from when Frozen plays Overwatch. And especially in games like World of Warcraft or like Baldur's Gate, or where you have story building. Like, I'm playing Starfield again because I really need to finish that game. I mean, I have a backlog of games that I need to get through this one. But that is a very different experience for me than it is for anybody else. And as soon as someone starts to mess with that personal experience by kind of, you piss people off, and you don't want to piss people off. You don't want to piss off gamers.
Yeah, you really don't.
So, but yeah, before we go into another rant, let's call it for today. I think we said everything that we needed to say for now. It's been a bit of a quiet week. I think more interesting stuff is probably coming in the next few weeks. The current event is still ongoing. I think for what is currently going on is the PvE event, but I think that is for another 2 weeks or something. for another week at least.
I don't know. I haven't looked actually.
Yeah, I think the next modifier is hitting this weekend or hit today, and then there's another one next week or something. I don't know.
Mm.
I think we at least have another week or something. I haven't checked myself either because I was traveling. Then we'll probably see another event coming in. We still have the collab that is coming. There's a few interesting things that are on the way. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be a quiet rest of a season. I think it's going to be an interesting season. It just started. But for now,
Definitely.
for today, it's done. For today, we're kind of giving up. We're throwing in the hat. Need to
Going
get some
sleep.
food. Yeah, I still have a radio show to record later tonight, so I need to get cracking, like they say. Frozen, can you tell these lovely people where they can find you?
At Frozen Unicorn on Twitter and Instagram, and the first O is a 0.
There we go. In case you didn't know that yet. You can find me as DamesTV on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Why did I clap my hands? That sounded really loud. You can follow the Omnic post on all those same platforms for all your updates on Overwatch. Check out the video that I'll be posting later tonight. So by the time you're listening to this podcast, unless you're on Patreon, if you're on Patreon, you get this episode early. You get to hear it a lot sooner than anybody else. You can actually watch it live as we record it on Patreon. That is also something you can do. So
Join the Discord.
Join the Discord. But I first want to thank our patrons again for all their support. Yeah, you can join us on patreon.com/theomnicpost. But yeah, join our Discord for a lot of fun to be had, D&D sessions and whatnot.
Big things coming in D&D. Just saying.
There we go. Little spoiler. Anything else? No, I think that's everything I needed to say. You can follow the Omnic Weekly on Instagram and Twitter, but the best way to stay up to date, know when we drop a new episode, is by subscribing on all the platforms that you can either listen or watch this podcast. We had someone commenting that they watched the podcast for the first time. Welcome over to the magical world of YouTube.
Nice to have you here.
where you can see Frozen's bald head and beard and my pink hair.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I love that. She was stroking her imaginary beard there for a second.
Yeah.
But that's it. All right, guys, ladies, gentlemen, anything in between, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you guys next week. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.